Hi everyone, this is Brooke Özlem Erol, another coffee time with you. So in the last few videos we talked about what are the things that stops us from getting what we want, not to chase our dreams, and those are real for us, but it really needs some inner work. We always look at our external circumstances to say, this is why I can't do this or that, but usually it's the inner work that changes everything. So we have covered the different voices in our heads, we covered the stories that we made up, we also talked about the definition of success and our comfort zone not being good enough, and different ways that our minds work and our thoughts work and our brains work that sometimes stops us from doing what we love. So one of the very last ones that I want to talk about is also being a victim of our circumstances. That's how our brains work. Again, this is not to be judgmental of who we are and what we do, but just to increase awareness. Because once we're aware, then we can do something about it. But if we're in autopilot mode, we are not going to be able to change anything, right? So most of us talk about the circumstances that we have hinders us from doing what we love to do. And I've always been fascinated listening to stories of people with the worst cases, with the worst circumstances, overcoming them. It just inspires me. When I watch those stories, it feels like, oh my God, if they were able to overcome this big of an obstacle, something like this in their circumstances, then I can do maybe everything. So I always loved listening to the stories, and I still do. And there's no time to explain all of them, but I'll just give you a couple of examples. Amy Purdy is somebody who loves snowboarding, and you can find her online, I'm sure, if you Google her. And she loved snowboarding, but she had to go through a really tough time when she was 19. She had meningitis, and they had to amputate both of her legs. Think about it. You want to be a snowboarder, and they take your legs away from you. But she never gave up. She found a way to find prosthetic legs, and after she found that way to have them, after 7 months or so, she kept on snowboarding. And now she's such a great role model for a lot of people with disabilities. She's online, she has a non-profit helping other kids and young people like her. She's done amazing things for her life, and she never stopped and said, I'm never gonna be able to snowboard anymore. She found every possible way to do it again. So that's again an amazing story. I'm sure you all know Sylvester Stallone, right? He is a big movie actor. But do you know his story? You can go and look in detail and read it online, but just in short, he had no money. He even had to sell his dog, but he wrote a script of this big movie, Rocky. And he sent it to scripts, and he was offered a lot of money to get the script, but he wanted to also play the part in that movie. And people said, no, you're not an actor, we won't accept it. And I think he was given 125,000 at some point, even 300,000. He still said no. And think about it, you don't have any money, but you believe in yourself so much, and you want to take a role in your own movie, that you say no at those times. That is unbelievable to me. And the rest is history. You know his story. Go and look that up and read it in more detail. It's amazing. And I always work in this environment where work is always command control, hierarchy, people come to work to only get paid and everything, but then there's people who question the status quo. They don't accept it, and even it's been accepted with 99% of people. There's this Bob Chapman, for example, as a CEO, who cares about his people as people, and he changed the company. He changed people's lives by thinking differently. He wasn't only looking at the circumstances, which is most companies were gonna tell people what to do. They don't look at them as people, but numbers and only profit maximization. He didn't go with his circumstances. He changed his mind, and he changed people's lives, right? And just little things, like at some point I have my grandparents' names given to schools back in Turkey, in the eastern part of Turkey, and I always had this dream, when I have a lot of money I'm gonna give them so much more, and I was waiting for that day. And then at one point it occurred to me, I don't have to do it all by myself. I told my story, I told my dad's story, my grandparents' story, and I shared it online and said, like, would you like to pitch in? Because I want to have these two schools. And everybody did. And me, my son, my dad, 3 generations went back to those schools and were able to give that money. I didn't have to wait. So we always think about many of our circumstances, like my parents did this to me, the economy is horrible, so I don't have the money, I am not like healthy enough to do this, or I'm not like young enough to start this off. And they all makes us victims of our circumstances. But usually it's just to keep us in our comfort zone. That's what we talked in our last video, because it makes it easier. We don't have to take the responsibility to own and do something about it. So much easier to be a victim, but what is the price that we pay for it? We don't get to do what we love. We don't try to find different ways and creative ways to get out of that, but it's possible. If you're like me, go and watch people that you admire and listen to the stories of people who have overcome lots of unbelievable hard circumstances. And maybe yours is not that hard. And even if it is, if you see even one person changing that, you will be able to do the same. So let's look at all these things that we tell ourselves and try to overcome them, and we'll be in a much better place. So this is it for now, and thank you for watching me. Have a great day until next time. Bye-bye.